Greenfry Asia was established because there is a need to lower emissions as fuel consumption is increasing in the Asia-Pacific market. With leveraging the IT application that we will be providing you, that we have designed, your company, GFA, will be able to allow its members to get better decision making, and also at the same time they'll have more information on how to reduce their shipping costs. Next, also, GFA will be able to utilize the enhanced label program to attract more members, specifically the smaller freight carriers. Our recommendation includes the 4 areas of articulating a goal for GFA. Next, defining the rules. Thirdly, setting up a feedback system. And lastly, encouraging participation, specifically with shippers influencing the carriers. Our recommendation specifically is to design an IT application that will help your members analyze the information and data through what-if analysis, report generating, as well as uploading the data to be able to gain better information for decision making, to provide a personalized supply chain optimization service, specifically with your small as well as your large carriers, and lastly, to enhance member adoption by leveraging the shipper influence on carriers. Good afternoon, GFA Board of Directors and stakeholders. My name is Nick. These are my colleagues Gwen and Nathan, and we're here on behalf of Aperio Consulting.
So Greenfry Asia today, you're looking at your stakeholders, whether it's your carriers, your shippers, or your LSPs, and they all have different types of data. Now the goal today is to facilitate application and goal to reduce CO2 emissions and to lower shipping costs through greener logistics. So first is that you have a need of an IT application that will collect, validate, and protect data, as well as to visualize and analyze it as well. So one more application is that there will be automated data collection, as mentioned. It was analyzed, and the goal today is also to partner with the Green Transformation Lab in order to leverage their features. In addition, this will be stored on the Amazon Web Services. So again, is to reiterate, it will be web applications that will be partnered with Green Transformation Lab to build features, and these are features that it will be built out with. And at the same time, it will standardize and aggregated data, and also from the existing projects that they have. So again, the key point is that we leverage their knowledge, but the interface is stored on an interface that will be leveraged through the cloud, which will make it for greater scalability in the future. So as mentioned, it is a pay-as-you-go services, meaning that you do not have to pay all the costs outright, and it's through a variable cost over time. And it is the data itself is actually stored in Singapore, so it is easier to facilitate, and it's not outside of your realms. So what is in place is that your files will be, your user will upload your file through the web application, and then the file itself, if it is a templated file, it will then be uploaded and automated to your database, and that itself will be stored on the data warehouse, and then at that point, it can use it for future analytics and for future development of visualization.
Why Amazon?
Now, one of the key reasons for using Amazon is that it is stored in Singapore, and in addition, it is a pay-as-you-go service, meaning that you do not have to take on the entire data warehousing cost right at the beginning.
And is Amazon the same company? Are we talking about distribution?
We're talking about Amazon, yes, and they do distribution company, and they do web services.
And isn't that a conflict of data? If I'm DHL or TNT and I'm providing my data to Amazon, am I not disclosing a very sensitive data to Amazon? Isn't that a bit of a conflict?
Now, the first reason is also because your data storage is located, and they do try to be very secure. So, in addition, they are your shipping company, and that would be a reason why we would go with them as well.
As we begin to implement the GFA label program, there's 2 key areas that we want to focus on, which is one, the incentivizing the adoption, especially within your smaller carriers, as well as pushing to ensure that your shippers will have that platform to understand what carriers are in the market and who is pushing to optimize their supply chain and reduce CO2 emissions. Within this application, a key area to focus on is the data verification and validation. What we want to recommend is that separating between the qualitative and quantitative side is to automate the validation and hire an IT auditor for the verification. The automation process will take place as the user will input their data through the system that we mentioned earlier, and as it is stored within that database, it will be verified through data type, presence, range, and limit. At this point, the error message will be presented back to the user where they will be prompted to make an adjustment if required in order to ensure the security and accuracy of that information and the usability for future benchmarking. Within the overall presence of how the information should be verified is through the hiring of an IT auditor. This individual will look at both the unintentional and intentional errors within the information. When we say unintentional, we're referring to the mistakes that are made for example, let's say adding an extra decimal place to the information. On the intentional side, this is the falsification of information to appear more promising and more stronger within the market amongst their competitors. This auditor will skim the information as it is entered and ensure that it aligns with the overall industry requirements as well as is accurate and usable for benchmarking.
So,
Sorry, using an IT expert, is that, what about an industry expert, is that not challenging? If we're talking here fuel consumption or CO2 emissions.
Yep. We recommend an IT auditor because their primary goal is to sample the information and identify any outliers within the system, and less to actually understand identify what the information means. It's more to compare the information presented against benchmarks and other key factors.
How would you be obtaining the benchmarks?
Yes, so there's two key areas to focus on. One is sampling against the industry numbers, which is, for example, if you're focusing on the smaller carriers, they will compare the smaller carrier inputted information against other smaller carrier inputted information to ensure that it aligns with those levels. On the other side, it's the comparison of previous information from that company and ensuring that that information that they currently entered aligns with what was presented earlier in their previous entries.
So with this in mind is that in order to create the feedback that you need to and provide those recommendations is that easily of the application you will have a dashboard. The dashboard will outline key metrics on the first page and as well as comparison historical data so they're able to easily look at it and in the future can future look back and see how they improve. And it is integrated in the website, so it will have a web user interface. Now going next is that we also have the ability to look at a green leaf certification. So for example, is that we have a shipper company. With a shipper company is that they will be able to look up the different carriers and see which one is a green leaf and what level of certification they have. And with this in mind, they can look at the value added and desire of a shipper and to which carrier to go about. And this will also increase the competition among carriers to actually go and improve the leaf rating, whether it's from a free leaf or a four leaf.
The goal that you have mentioned is to be able to reach 200 plus members by the end of this year. We see this as an opportunity that can be achieved, but there needs to be some requirements that need to be set, particularly with the commitment letters for your new members. So we do recommend that the shippers will commission carriers that are Greenleaf certified, and they have to have this Greenleaf certification when they are signing the commitment letters. So logistics service providers as well as shippers will only go with carriers that do have that certification. So with this, you're able to really target the very small freight carriers because they would really want to still do business with larger companies such as DHL or UPS because they do make up about 80% of the subcontractors from these types of businesses. And additionally, it would be the logo monetization possibility. We see that the brand image of maintaining a non-for-profit for GFA much more beneficial instead of having the short-term monetary gain of trying to get revenue from your logo. With trying to get revenue from your logo, you will have decreased brand control, and at the same time, the smaller freight carriers will be deterred from trying to adopt that option because they would have to pay when they're a very small company that may only have 1 truck or 2 trucks for delivery.
As we push to partner with you, we want to emphasize a partnership through contracted service. This is where here at Aperio Consulting, we team up with you at Green Freight Asia to allow for an assisted supply chain optimization service and enforce and allow for you to better understand your members' commitments to the industry as well as make improvements on their current processes. What this means is to begin, as we look at the small carriers, their information will still run through the Greenleaf certification, and we will take that information along with the best practices within the industry, which is from the members of your organization, and create webinars, phone meetings, and social media campaigns focused directly to these smaller carriers and allow them to better understand what is going on in the industry and implement best practices to improve their overall efficiencies. As we move into the larger carriers, This is where we take the Greenleaf certification information and the information that they upload, as well as the best practices that we receive from the industry, but instead we meet with them in person and work with them to implement and create an end-to-end system to help them optimize their overall supply chain. This is where we take the larger carriers who are looking to push from being a 2-leaf or 3-leaf and help them become a 4-leaf. This is really key, as the overall desirability of these individuals in the market is key for their success as they try to market themselves to the shippers.
Can I ask you a quick question? Yes. On your previous slide, small carriers, what language would you envisage that you run these webinars, and what sort of system expectation would you expect a small carrier of 1 or 2 vehicles to have?
Just to clarify, your question is in regards to what language we release the webinars in. Our primary focus would be in English, but because they can be, they are very much generalized and focused on the smaller carriers, we can look at the long term of implementing these in different languages.
And then social media as well. What do you consider as a group?
In terms of social media, our real push here is just to help promote the overall marketing of these smaller carriers and ensure that their name is in the out in the market. So it will be less about us developing a social media campaign and more about ensuring that they understand how social media can be used to enhance their image within the market.
Do we know, you used Amazon. Is that allowed in China, for example?
The overall Amazon services, in terms of the data storage, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, in terms of actually accessing Amazon.
So in terms of there is already Green for China initiative at the moment. So therefore, in social media we will be using and capitalizing on other means such as Tool or using Sino Weibo in terms of reaching and mitigating working with those aspects in the Chinese market.
So with our implementation timeline, we have split it into 3 sections. The first, the items that are in the blue will be specific to the IT application development. And the items in the gray will be pertaining to getting the program up and running. So this would be commitment, commitment from the shippers as well as the carriers. And items in orange will be specifying the details in terms of the hiring as well as the leaf programming. The label program that will be initiated further on. So a few milestones that we would like to identify is in the blue would be standardizing the metrics for GFA so that the companies and the members that will be participating in your organization will be having a standardized set of types of data and field names that they have to choose from when they're uploading or submitting their data. Second milestone would be in the gray, where the start of the supply chain assistance service, where we'll be here at Aperio Consulting to help you guide your small freight carriers as well as your larger freight carriers. That will begin by the end of September this year. And lastly, the key area with the GFA GFA label program launch, it would begin in the middle of September. So with the risks that we have identified, the first is user adoption for shippers and carriers is low. So we do see mixing it in terms of the push and the pull aspect marketing efforts to be able to bring more shippers in that will in turn bring more carriers in, specifically the smaller freight carriers. Next is the partnership with the Green Transformation Lab is not approved for IT application development, and we do see the mitigation is a contingency fund set up to contract developer for this application development. Last risk would be revenues from the contract for services exceed the not-for-profit allowance available in Singapore. We do see that the surplus generated will be reinvested back into GFA that will be used for future initiatives. So with this, our desired outcome is to be able to have a platform for the stakeholders to be able to aggregate, analyze, as well as visualize the different types of data to make better decisions to reduce shipping costs. Dedicated supply chain services from us, Aperio Consulting, that will be able to provide you to help you guide the large carriers from, for example, 3-leaf to 4-leaf levels. And lastly, the adoption of the GFA label program throughout the shippers as well as the carriers, because of the influence from the shippers and the business that the carriers would want to do with these shippers. They will want to be able.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
So just now there's quite a bit of marketing activities that's going to happen, and you mentioned before that we don't have a lot of funds.
Correct.
So are you expecting us to carry out all this marketing cost?
No, we will be doing this, and there will be a revenue sharing model between us that we can discuss further. So with this, finally, it would be able to allow you to leverage the shipper influence on your carriers to be able to bring much more members to reach that 200 plus members by the end of 2014. Thank you very much for your time. We'll now open the floor for any questions. No questions.
Thank you for the